to this webinar about the Pilbara Food Community 2023 Early Findings Summary. I would like to acknowledge our funder Healthway and our project partners including WA Country Health Service, the Social Enterprise Wicked Lab, the Public Health Advocacy Institute and ECU, the Centre for People, Place and Planet. We acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands on which you are viewing this webinar. We recognise their continuing connection to the land and the beautiful ocean and thank them for protecting this country for thousands of generations. We respect all elders, past and present. Just as a refresher, our project aims to identify, map, evaluate and strengthen food security initiatives across the WA regions, and in particular, for this case, that's supporting food security action in the Pilbara region. Now I'm going to take you through some of our Pilbara Food Community Project activities to date. And that includes the project launch, which we held in South Hedland and online in December of 2022. We then conducted 18 interviews capturing 21 initiatives with people running food security initiatives across the Pilbara. We then returned to the region in October of 2023 to hold our results sharing and action planning workshop, where we co-designed action plans with initiative leaders who had previously participated in an interview to further strengthen their work. At our launch in 2022, we asked people what vision they had for a food secure Pilbara region, and with those insights, we created this graphic recording that you can see here to showcase the kind of themes people wanted to see. So they wanted to see things like edible landscapes, for example, more edible food planted in streets and unused spaces. Another theme was support for local food production, so for example, diversifying the food supply pathway and supporting primary production initiatives. Another was education and empowerment through community gardens, so using them as teaching hubs to support people to grow their own food at home. Another was including desert communities, so having bush tucker outlets and more production of traditional foods. And another theme was advocacy for healthier options in food outlets. So this vision was based on the brainstorming activity at the launch, but it was also shared through social media sites in the Pilbara region to get people's additions and feedback. And we also asked people to circulate it through their networks so that they could also contribute to this vision. Then during the interview with initiative leaders, we also asked them about their vision for a food secure Pilbara region, and some of their additions included increasing healthy food affordability and access for all, increase in locally grown produce and households growing their own food, increase in education and empowerment so that people can take ownership over their own food security, increase in community garden numbers and size so that enough food can be grown to provide for activities such as school canteens. And then we had First Nations people experiencing the same health, well-being, prosperity and food security as the non-Indigenous community. Next up is a snapshot of our results that we have uncovered after our first round of interviews and action planning in the Pilbara. This includes we conducted 18 interviews and looked in depth at 21 initiatives focusing on food security. Then when we asked initiative leaders who they were working in partnership with, we found that there were 56 partnering organisations. So when we interviewed people, we asked them things like who they work with and where they get their funding from, and this helps us to build a map or an understanding of the kinds of different organisations that are working to implement these initiatives. We also mapped the interviewed initiatives against the dimensions or aspects of food security, and some initiatives can address multiple where relevant. So we found 7 initiatives focusing on food availability, 16 focusing on food access, 12 focusing on food utilisation, 1 focusing on the stability of those first 3 dimensions, 2 focusing on agency, and 1 focusing on sustainability. So we know that there are more than those 21 initiatives that we interviewed happening in the Pilbara region, but this is just a snapshot of what's happening. Next, this image gives you a picture of the types of initiatives we interviewed. So there were 9 food literacy and health promotion initiatives, 5 emergency food relief and community programs, 3 community gardens and or food swapping groups, 2 First Nations-led projects, one network and/or alliance, and one policy or strategic plan. And of course, these types of initiatives are spread across various dimensions of food security, and some may cover multiple dimensions as well. For example, food access is covered by food relief and community programs. Food utilisation is covered by food literacy and health promotion initiatives. And then both food access and availability are covered by community garden type initiatives as well. Then we also mapped the interviewed initiatives across the lifespan to showcase where the focus areas of these initiatives are and where there are some spaces for opportunities. So as you can see here, majority of the initiatives that we interviewed are focused on school-aged children, youth or adults, and they are less focused on early years and senior or older adults. We've also shown this information in another way through a socio-ecological model, and this shows the different levels of intervention that these initiatives are focusing on. For example, at the individual level, they're focusing on knowledge, skills or attitudes of individual clients or people that they're working directly with. At an interpersonal level, these ones are focusing on relationships between family or social networks, or looking at the connection between these different levels of social networks and partnerships. Then, at an institutional level, these ones are often embedded within schools or settings like workplaces, for example, or thinking about how they might be an emergency relief project that's focusing on supporting clients from within different institutions. Then, at a community level, these ones focus on different partnerships between community organisations. And then at the top we have the public policy level, for example, a local government public health plan like the one we have listed here. So this gives us a little snapshot view of the kinds of focus areas that the initiatives in the Pilbara region have. So they are more at that individual and institutional level and less at the interpersonal, community and public policy levels. As I mentioned earlier, during the interviews, we asked people who they work in partnership with, who their stakeholders are, and where they get their funding from. And this helped us to build this partnership map that you can see here, which we generated through the Wicked Lab software. So this map helps us to understand the kind of different organisations that are working in the space and how they potentially work together to implement initiatives. Then in terms of these stakeholders, partnerships and collaborations, there were on average 2.7 partnering organisations per initiative. Then the two main types of organisations were not-for-profits and businesses. So this just shows us the kind of range of different types of collaborators that are working on food security in the Pilbara region. Next we have our Pilbara transition card or our systems change map, which really visualises how the Pilbara food security system is contributing to 36 systems change characteristics across 9 focus areas. So it shows the 21 initiatives that we interviewed down the left side here, and they're listed in terms of the name of the initiative. Then these columns are the 9 different focus areas that make up our framework, and you can find more information about that in some of our other webinars. Then the coloured tiles indicate whether the initiative possesses that focus area's characteristic. So each characteristic aligns with the question asked during the interview, and then the same coloured tiles are all of the characteristics for that one focus area. For example, the red tiles are the 8 characteristics under focus area 1. So if the tile is coloured, then the initiative possesses the characteristic, and if it's blank, they either responded no to our question or couldn't provide evidence as to how they possess the characteristic. So there are no right or wrong answer, and it's not necessarily a bad thing if they don't possess them. It just offers these windows of opportunities to strengthen different parts or aspects of that initiative through small tweaks or changes. Then you can see that we have these 3 red boxes. So these are the focus areas that have the most windows of opportunity. So focus areas 5, 6 and 7 and 8 and 9 here were different focus areas that we identified to work on in our action planning workshop when we returned to the region. So focus area 5 is around building collective knowledge. So that could be about using technology to share information with others addressing food security in the region, or it could be about connecting people who have different perspectives on food security. Then focus areas 6 and 7 could be about bridging community programs to government strategic plans. And then focus area 8 and 9 might be about how government can share information about food security initiatives that are happening in their region with their jurisdiction. So taking a bit of a closer look at those focus areas, we can see that 57% of interviewed initiatives possessed focus area 1, which is shake things up. 50% of initiatives possessed focus area 2, which is amplify action. 46% of initiatives possessed focus area 3, create identity and combine resources. And 50% of interviewed initiatives possessed focus area 4, which is embed, watch and respond. While under the focus areas to strengthen, we can see that 44% of initiatives possessed focus area 5, which is build collective knowledge. 17% of initiatives possessed focus area 6, which is align government and community. 17% of the interviewed initiatives possessed focus area 7, which is shape policies with community voices. 32% of initiatives possessed focus area 8, which is tap into community know-how. And then 10% of interviewed initiatives possessed focus area 9, which is promote community initiatives. So this analysis is how we determined that these focus areas here had the most windows of opportunity, and then we focused on strengthening those areas with initiative leaders during our action planning workshop. So in October of 2023, we returned to the region to hold the Pilbara Food Community Results Sharing and Action Planning Workshop. And this workshop aimed to share early findings of the project's 2023 cycle and co-design an action plan with each initiative leader to further strengthen their work. So these actions were realistic, small tweaks or value adds rather than whole initiative changes. So 3 people participated in action planning in person, online or self-completed their action plans with the food community team's support. And these are collectively aiming to address systems change characteristics across the food security system in the Pilbara. Then during the action planning workshop, in-person and online attendees contributed to a discussion about new food security initiatives needed in the region to better support food security systems change, and these initiatives spanned across the food security aspects or dimensions. So under food availability, for example, there was the idea of verge gardens and edible fruit trees in parks. Then under food access, there was the idea of government legislations on large supermarkets for more affordable food prices. Then under food utilisation, there were things like increasing culturally appropriate food options. Under stability, their ideas included increasing local food production. And under sustainability, the attendees came up with the idea of shortening the food supply chain by getting produce directly from surrounding regions. So this brings us to the end of this webinar. Thank you for watching. You can contact the food community team via our website, follow us on Facebook or email us at foodcommunity@ecu.edu.au.